Let me introduce our first speaker. Susan Buttaccio has been a librarian since 2006. She worked as a senior librarian at the New York Public Library from 2006 until 2012 as a teen services specialist. In 2014, she began her career with the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library as a part-time librarian at the Lancaster Public Library, then spent time away from libraries as the administrator of the UB History Department. In 2018, she joined the staff here at the Central Library and served in the Children's Department until November 2021, when she transferred to the Grosvenor Room, the Rare Books, Genealogy, and Local History Department. Please join me in welcoming Susan Buttaccio.
My name is Susan Buttaccio. I am the manager these days of the library's Special Collections Department. It's called the Grosvenor Room. We actually house local history, rare books, music, and yeah, that's it. Today I'm going to talk to you about research and inspiration using our special collections, the library's special collections, for your next writing project. We are called the Grosvenor Room. We're located upstairs inside the Central Library. We are open whenever the Central Library is open. We keep the same hours. We are named the Grosvenor Room because of this gentleman right up here in the top corner, Seth Grosvenor. People are not familiar with Seth Grosvenor. He was a resident of Buffalo around the War of 1812, stayed here for many years, and then moved to New York City. When he passed away, he bequeathed $40,000 to the city to begin a reference library, meaning you would check out any items, it would be things that you would come and utilize in the library. This was in addition to our circulating library, which had begun in 1832, and that was a subscription library where people could come in and access materials for subscription price. When the library systems were combined in the 50s, the Special Collections Department was named the Grosvenor Room in honor of Mr. Grosvenor, our benefactor. So we have been around in the library game for a long time. We have collections that reach back to 1836, which is when the Buffalo and Erie County, where the Young Men's Association library, the circulating library, the subscription library was established here in Buffalo. So just a few things to think about. Not only are we open whenever the Central Library is open, we have collections, large collections online that you can access anytime, 24/7, or you can come in person and speak with a librarian and we can help you explore all of the information and collections that we have. So we have information not just about Buffalo, though that is something that we specialize in. We also have collections from our genealogy department that tell the history of towns from all across the country, most of which is indexed in our local history file. It's in the cards. We actually have an old school card catalog. You can come in and instead of references to individual books, we index people, places, events, news items. We've been doing this probably for about 100 years. I think we started in the 1920s. So if you want to find an obituary for somebody like Seth Grosvenor, you can look up Seth Grosvenor in our card catalog and be linked to articles and information that you can access in our room, including newspapers on microfilm that could be up to 190 years old. So it is a really powerful piece of technology that we have. Our local history card file is actually a piece of technology. As I said, we have newspapers, up to 190 years of newspaper collecting, most of which is available on microfilm. So if you want to feel, like old school library, you can go and sit down on the microfilm. We will show you how to use that. You are always welcome to come and research whenever we are open. You can take pictures of articles or save them on a flash drive or print as well. We also have scrapbooks, which rumor has it we began when the Pan American Exposition started. They are large format scrapbooks that librarians have been clipping for over 120 20 years now. Some are even older. You'll find articles that go back to the 1840s and 1850s on specific topics. So if you don't know what you want to write about, or you are working on a project and need specific information, I really highly recommend coming in and taking a look at our scrapbook collection, because it really will give you an idea of some of the local history things that have happened over the years. It will tell you about prominent Buffalonians that have lived in the city. We put articles about history. We also have scrapbooks about building the infrastructure of the city and architecture and things like that as well. Let's see, one of our other very important parts of our collection, in fact, and a lot of times they will say it's the backbone of any local history collection, are our city directory, our city directories. That's the second picture here. We actually have, going back to 1832, city directories, which was before there were phone books. You had city directories. You can actually go and look up people's names. I will show you a little more in depth shortly. And you can find out a lot about where people lived, what kinds of work they did. There's ads in there that would give kind of like richness to your research as well. We also have a large map collection. Some are focused on Buffalo, New York, but also international maps as well. We have a map that goes back, I believe, to the 16th century that shows the world divided into four. It's a really interesting, collection if you are into visual maps and things like that as well. We also have digital collections. We have worked very hard to scan and provide high quality images with great resolution of some really accessible and important research. I would love to show you a few things here. So I was talking about city directories earlier, and I will be sharing a link. I believe it's in the booklet. The link to our digital collections will be provided. So it'll be a master list of all the different platforms that we're on. So that will be available. So our city directories, for example, are on the New York Heritage website. And you'll see so if you would like to see our earliest city directory, the Buffalo City Directory, you can just click on it. 1832, I believe that was the year that our city was incorporated into a city. You can go page by page. These directories not only have listings for people, they also tell the history of the town. So you'll see if you wanted to know how people in 1832 saw how the foundation of this town happened, you can read all about that. And then as you dig deeper, when I get to the listings, let's see here. See, they were very long-winded back then. They really like to write about themselves. Let's see, we'll go over here. So they actually also would list people by their ethnicity. They would list them by their jobs. They would list them. It's a very powerful piece of history in terms of who was here in our early history. But you'll see here are some people. William Ross was a carpenter at Genesee Street, so you couldn't really go to their house. You get a sense of where they lived and what they did. So if you're interested in what kinds of jobs people used to do in the 1830s, the foundation of our town, this will give you that kind of resource. We also have an amazing, as I said, maps and atlas collection. Now atlases back in the day are, again, a little different than like the road map atlases that we see now. They would include pictures, they would include histories, and if you dig deep enough, it will show you who owned each piece of property. So Eagle Hotel is, for example, a very storied early hotel and tavern. I believe that is the hotel that Lafayette they had a dinner for the Marquis de Lafayette when he came to visit here. So you can see who the owner was. You can see the imprint of the buildings. So it's not just where the streets were laid out. It will give you actual historical information. Let's see here. And again, these are all available 24/7. If you have that late night inspiration inspiration and you want to have some research that you want to dig your teeth into, we've got quite a bit. We also have an impressive, very impressive rare book collection. For a public institution, we are so lucky to have a very deep and sort of profound collection of rare books. For example, this book, let's see if I can say it, the Polyphily Hypertomachia, which is it's called an incunable, which means that it was published before 1500. So Gutenberg published his books, the movable type, as we all remember from elementary and high school. That happened in the mid 16th century, 15th century, I'm sorry. So any book that was published before 1500 in that early phase is called an incunable. And sometimes the stories are told in the margins. So if you look at this book is 500 years old, and people would write, as you see, this is in Latin, French, Greek. The stories there's a tale to tell in the marginalia. So people would write in the margins. There's a life of books sort of beyond the physical item that we see. Well, in the physical item that we see, there are stories to be told. So these are things that you can also kind of use for inspiration. At least I find it pretty inspiring. I'm hoping that the one thing is that you have to be careful, or else you'll make yourself seasick when you start moving this around. But yeah. So as you see, these are all very readable. I understand that this is in Latin, so maybe you know Latin. I don't. So, but these are all very high quality images. You can really zoom in and kind of it's like reading it yourself in person. In terms of 20th century information, we have a very interesting collection of TV news reports. Most of them are put together by Rich Newberg. Do we all remember Rich Newberg, our favorite newscaster? He has been generous enough to put together reporting that basically talks about the entire span of the 20th century, from the Second World War on. He has done reporting. Some of it is about Buffalo specifically, and some of it is more expansive. And if you want to sort of get the sense of, you want to walk down memory lane or get the sense of what things were like, especially in the 70s and 80s, he's done a lot of amazing reporting that I highly recommend you take a look at. He's done a very thoughtful job, and it's been pretty, it's pretty great to kind of take a look through that. And again, our newspaper collection, some are on microfilm that you'd be able to come and look at. So microfilm, the reason why we have things on microfilm is that paper, as we know, breaks down quite quickly. Microfilm is the archival standard to this day of preserving quality papers. But we do also have items digitized. Most of them are on our New York State Historic Newspaper site, but these are so for example, this collection of the Criterion, which is the paper put together by Frank E. Merriweather. There's a library named after him. He was a big pillar of the community. We have scans of the paper. And you can also, since it's New York State history, you can find papers from all over the area. So if you want to get into like small town local stories, they will be in there. So it's another great place to explore. So was it really a dark and stormy night? Some of our local history collection is wildly specific. We have, for example, this is the weekly bulletin of the Office of the Board of Health in the City of Buffalo. We have these reports for about 20 or 30 years, and not only can you go into the, as an example of some of the interesting things in our collection, not only can you go in and see what caused people's deaths throughout this time period, you can also find out what the weather was like. Don't ask me why they put together a statement of mortality and the weather. But if you really want to know if it was a dark and stormy night, you can go and look and find dates and see what the weather was like on a particular day. So we have, sometimes you have to dig a little to find the information you want. So feel free to stop by and talk to us or send us an email. I have links to contact us well. So if you want a specific type of piece of information, our staff at the Grosvenor Room is very happy to help you with your work. We also have a really amazing collection about Buffalo schools. We have yearbooks we have shelves and shelves of yearbooks, high school yearbooks, college yearbooks. And so if you want to sort of go through and get a sense of what was happening with students, you can go and look at that. Some of the really fascinating years are the war years, World War I, World War II. If you look through there, there's some very poignant stories to tell and pictures and memorials to students that were, one day they were, 17-year-old students, and the next year they had, sacrificed themselves for their country. Pretty poignant information in those yearbooks. We also have this is Maston Park High School, which I believe now is on the site of City Honors. And we have a survey of all the Buffalo public schools that were taken in, it was taken in 1909. And you can see all of the various schools that were open in Buffalo at the time. And it's pretty amazing because sometimes the streets were paved, sometimes there were telegraph lines, sometimes there were horses and carriages in front, and sometimes there are Model T, or early cars. So it kind of gives you a real interesting snapshot of what Buffalo was like, and how kids went to school. We also have, and I'm trying not to overwhelm everyone, so I'm just kind of doing some quick hits here because we have a lot of interesting things. We also have high school registries, so you can see the names of various students and when they came to school, when they left, what they were studying, things like that. It's a really interesting way for various high schools. They're giant ledgers that we can go through and find out information about education in Buffalo at the turn of the century. We also have annual school reports and reports from the school board, so it will give you an idea of some of the issues that we're facing, students and parents and teachers at the time. Especially through the beginning of the 20th century, Buffalo was growing, growing, growing. They were always saying we're out of room, we have to keep offering more schools, more locations, classes in different languages for all of the new people arriving to our city. It's a really interesting story. And finally, I love to tell people about our little Harlem collection. This is digitized. This is a storied club in the 20th century, ran by Anne Montgomery. The building stood until I believe 1992 when it was sadly destroyed in a fire. But it started off as an ice cream parlor, and we think that this lady right here might be Anne Montgomery, the lady in the black dress. And this is just a slice of life from the 20th century. It's kind of a unique item in our collection because it is just, that's a broken link. Okay. So it is there we go. It shows people just having a good time in Buffalo. And jazz greats came through here and performed. They had a troupe of actors and performers that would entertain everybody in the city. And it also was known as a haven for the LGBTQ community and a place where people that were black, people that were white would come together and just have a good time. So again, a really interesting piece of the early 20th century that kind of gives you a vibe, vibe. So finally, and if you have any questions about our collection, we are more than happy to speak with you. If you would like a tour, please send us an email. We are right upstairs. We are always happy to kind of give you an overview of what we have in our collection and how we can help. We have specialists local history specialists who can help you find items specifically about Buffalo. We have a genealogist who is very good at helping you sort of trace back family histories. And again, our genealogy department goes beyond Western New York. They will tell you the history of small towns all over America, especially in the Northeast, because that's when kind of like the great little genealogy around here. You'll find a lot of stuff about, and a lot of in our early history, a lot of folks came from the Northeast to Buffalo. That's sort of how the first wave of migration, I guess we call it, happened. We do have, if it's the middle of the night, you just need to know the answer to one of life's persistent questions. You can always, we have a form that you can click on, and we can look up articles for you. We can look up articles, we can look up obituaries, we can do searches in our city directories, and we are always willing to help. There is a link here to our digital collections, so again, that will be included in the packet that you received, so you can go on over and take a look and explore to your heart's content. We have like 1,200 items in the collection, and it's always growing, so be sure to check back often. And we also have a blog where we have a listing of our events. We do a lot of classes on local history and genealogy, and how to get that done. Learn more about how you can sort of trace either your ancestry or learn more about local history. And we also have some interesting stories on our blog. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Again, my name is Susan, and you are always welcome to stop into the Grosvenor room and explore. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. That was great.